Can I just...
Okay. This is...
Okay, we got it. Okay, go for it.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone,
Shabbat Shalom.
and welcome. It is good. This is the first Friday night in several weeks that we actually have the sun out at this time of day. It's been kind of rainy and icky the last 2 Fridays. So we're going to, as we do at this time of year, push off lighting candles till the end of the service when the sun is actually going down. And for now, I'll just wish you Shabbat Shalom in anticipation of that. And Moadim L'Simcha, which is the greeting one uses in these intervening days of Passover. So you say Chag Sameach on the first day and the last day, and in the middle you say Moadim L'Simcha, which means the appointed festivals for happiness. Sort of like that? Does that make sense? Okay. We are going to pray tonight and welcoming Shabbat. I hope that your Passover is going as well as it can. And you may notice that Karen Horowitz is not here with us tonight. That is because in her other life, she plays the organ and piano at a church. And there's some big holiday going on right about now. So I said to the cantor, well, she must be done with Good Friday services by this point. Like, why isn't she here? But I think it's a lot of work for her next few days, and all the preparation with choirs and all sorts of things. We're going to join together in singing Shalom Aleichem, and you just all proved that you can sing without the piano, so no cutting back at this point. Page 142.
Please join me. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei amlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Baruch hu ni l'shalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei amlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Tzeitchem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei amlachim, hakadosh baruch hu.
And on page 138, we'll join together in singing Lecha Dodi, the first, second, fifth, and ninth stanza. And when we get to the last stanza, if you would join us in rising and facing the door so that we can symbolically welcome the spirit of Shabbat.
Lecha Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamor v'zachor bedibur echad, Hishmianu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad, Ushemo echad, L'shem ultiferet v'litila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 2. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelecha, Ki hi mekor habracha, Merosh mikedem nesucha, Sof maase b'machshavat chila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 5. Hitoreri, Kiva orech kumiori, Uri shir taderi, Kevod Adonai alayich nikla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela.
Please rise.
Boi v'shalom ateret bala, Gam besimcha uvtzola, Toch emunei am segula, Boi chala, Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela.
Please remain standing as we turn to page 144, and the cantor leads us in the Chatzi Kaddish, the Reader's Kaddish, that will take us from these introductory melodies into the body of the service itself.
Yitgadal v'yikadash shemei Rabba, Be'alma divrach chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, B'chayechon u'v'yomeichon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Bagala, u'v'zman kariv v'imeru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mivarach, Le'alam u'l'alma yomaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach, V'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, V'yithadar v'yithaleh, V'yithalal Shemei Dekudesha B'richu, Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechemata, Damiran mi'alma v'imeru. Amen.
On page 146, we continue with Baruch.
Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la la Lai, la, lai, 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 lai. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
We continue together at the top of page 149. Praise to you,
Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim.
page 150.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael, Amecha ahavta, Amecha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadita, Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochveinu, uvkumeinu nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu be'orech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla, be'ahavatecha al tasir, mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated. And we continue with the V'Via Hafta on page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, lihyot lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem, Emet.
And on page 157 at the top, we continue together. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Page 158.
And because it is Chol HaMoed Pesach this Shabbat, we are going to continue with our Mi Chamocha to the tune that's become associated with the festival of Pesach. That is the tune for Adir Hu. Please join me. Mi Chamocha Ba'elim Adonai, Mi Chamocha Nedar B'Kodesh, Norat Hilot Osef Ele, Malchutecha Ra'uvanecha, Bokei Hayam Lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, Zeili Anu v'yameru, Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Va'ed, V'nemar Kivad Adonai et Yaakov, Ugalo miyad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
And we continue at page 160 in the middle of the page. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace, and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Page 162.
Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, ledorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti le'olam. Ki sheishet yamim asa Adonai, et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz. Uvayom hashavi shavat ve'inafash.
On page 164, we rise and together pray the Amidah.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. And we're going to continue at the top of page 173, and then we'll do the next two odd number pages at the top, 175 and 177, and then at the end of the Amidah, we'll come to page 178, which is Shalom Rav, the prayer for peace. So let's join together on 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth.
May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayers.
Wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands, you are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yir'ah na'avod.
God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks.
Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. And please join me for Shalom Rav on page 178. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam V'tov be'einecha levarech Et Amecha Yisrael Bechol eit uvechol shah Bishlomecha Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam Tasim Leolam Tasim Leolam. Blessed are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel and all people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamvarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. And we'll take just a few moments for our own prayer before we join together in our Aseh Shalom on page 180. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Going to continue with the Misha Beirach for healing, a prayer for our friends and family who could use that kind of assistance. It's on page 371, and we think especially the Shabbat of Bill Ross, Katie Peltz-Davis, Alan Turner, Bob Ransom, Patrice R., Michelle Jacoby, Catherine Lamb, Bob Radke, Maccabee Ben Avraham, Kathleen Manchero, Al Myers, Jack Marvin, Donald Betsky, Cindy Kramer, Jim Stillman, Janelle C., Leonore Friedman, Marcia Reese, Jean and Paul Wilhelm, Lisa Frolkis, Bill Reed, Sarah Friedman, Leo Weinschel, David Goldenholtz, Sarah Batvesi Viben, Jennifer Houston, Feivel Ben Rachalea, David Warner, Linda Roberts Greenblatt, Neil Pinsky, Lular Hughes, Dietem Eater, Barbara Blick, Herb Selden, Michael Ross, Michael and Kathy Keeley, Jean Volker, Debbie Gieden, Michael and Marilyn Stillman, William Frankie, Joseph Marcus, Mike Johnson, Doug Lewis, Susie Garrison, Deidre Tischberg, Rivka Bracha bat Basha Pesha, Bill Nikud, Rick Nibor, Bracha bat Miriam, Charles Young, Avram Ben Baris, Truth Sophia Freeman, Marlene Levy, Zisa Elka bat Chasya, Bob Neubauer, Carol Parra, Madeline Parra, Jimmy Ansfield, Richard Strauss, Martha Ross, Kim McNeil, Joseph Ben Lily Venatan, Mitzi Holman, and Steve Manning. And if there are others of whom you are aware who could use our blessings and our prayers for healing, I would ask you to hold them close to you in your heart as together we pray.
Mi shebeirach avoteinu mekor habracha lehimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
I hope that everybody was able to celebrate the first days of Passover, maybe even having gone to a Seder. I was thinking earlier today about some personal memories of Seders, and the one that always comes back to me is that moment when I was about 10 years old. When we got to the Seder, my dad had always filled in the name of family members or friends, which paragraph they were going to read in the Haggadah. And by the time I was 10 and a half, it suddenly dawned on me that we did not have a Norwegian relative named Omit, which accounted also why it was not a very long Seder when I was growing up. I have a funny feeling that we all have stories like that. Maybe not with the Norwegian angle on it. But I know, for example, the rabbi I worked with in California, Rick Block, had in his living room a love seat. And it was the same love seat that he used to fall asleep on while his grandparents were doing a Seder when he was very, very small. But to have been able to have that tangible thing in his house connected with those kinds of memories is really special. I'm going to talk about something much less or much more mundane than that, and that is a little Passover trivia. So there will be prizes. I thought, we could do like this part of the room versus that part of the room. But that might not, I don't know, it's not exactly equal numbers. Didn't say it wasn't fair, but equal numbers. So, we'll do this individually. If you do have an answer, this is not one of those cases where there's no wrong answer or no right answer. There's a right answer, but sometimes there's a righter answer. And those are kind of trick questions, so keep your heads about you. Number one, we'll start off easy. For how many days is Passover observed today in the world? 7? Yes, but also 8. And the reason is this. I'm sorry, you stepped right into that one, Eli. In the Torah, it's 7 days long. In Israel, it's 7 days long. But the practice originated long time ago that the first day of holidays, particularly those that were tied to the cycle of the moon, were celebrated for 2 days rather than 1 day. That's why there's 2 first days of Passover, with the hope that, without weather.com and knowing exactly when the new moon was coming, and the possibility that there was, it was cloudy out or something, if you did it twice, you were probably going to hit the right day. Now, people in Israel do it only 7 days, and a lot of people here in the States only do it 7 days, because that's really what the Bible talks about, and we live at a time where we can find out when the new moon is with a little more accuracy than our forebears could. Who knows what the word Seder, the Hebrew word Seder, means in English? Order in the court. Seder, it means order, and in fact, it's related to the word Sidur, which is the prayer book, for a very similar reason. They both contain a bunch of prayers in order, a certain order. No matter where you go in the Jewish world, if you go to a Passover Seder, it'll pretty much be the same things in the same order, and the same is true of the prayer book on a Friday night or Saturday morning. A little more challenging. Does somebody have to ask the 4 questions during the Seder? Of course.
If you don't ask the questions, you don't spend all that time answering the questions. And in addition, I think Torah says we're supposed to.
Well, that's much better than my answer. Toots, what you had a different feeling about it. Just a feeling? Just a feeling. Actually, there's one case where you don't have to do the 4 questions, and that is if some people around the table have already started spontaneously asking questions about what's going on and what does this mean and that. It's the 4 questions we learn in the Talmud really were kind of 4 suggested questions to get the ball rolling if questions weren't forthcoming. Now, I have no memory of a Seder where someone started asking questions before the 4 questions until Wednesday night. I was there, and there was a 16-year-old guy, and he started asking these questions. I was like, we don't have to do the 4 questions. Which, if he had heard that, being 16 and the youngest one in the room, he would have been very happy about. Okay. There is a special fund, a fundraising that occurs before Passover in Jewish communities. It's called a Ma'ot Chitim fund, which literally means wheat money. Wheat as in like growing wheat. And it's collecting something to be given to those too poor to be able to afford it themselves. Any ideas?
Matzah. As well as really, nowadays it's everything required for the Seder.
Today it's a little more expanded, but yeah, the original idea was that everybody would chip in so that the least fortunate in the community would make sure they had matzah in particular, but other things that they might need for the Seder. Now, who is exempt from contributing to that fund? The answer is no one. Even the person, the Talmud makes it very clear, even the person who is on the public dole, who is receiving money from others because they don't have enough to live on, even that person has to contribute something to the Ma'ot Chitim fund. There's a recognition that there's something ennobling about the gift of giving, even if it's money that you got from others. The fact that you're giving some of it back to people who are not fortunate is an important thing. Who is the biblical figure who is not mentioned, surprisingly, in the traditional Haggadah? Very good. Exactly right. Moses. Now, the first time I heard that, I was kind of like, wait a second. I mean, it's the 5 books of Moses. The Exodus is like Moses' set piece. How could it not be? But Moses is scrubbed from the record. And the only rationale for that I can think of is the same idea that kept the Torah from revealing where Moses was buried when he died. But the Torah makes a point saying that he was buried, it sounds like actually God did the burying, in a valley that's now in Jordan. But it says, it says in the Torah, and no one knows the place of his burial until this very day. Now, that very day when it was written was a long time ago. But they didn't want Moses to become the object of veneration himself. And it would have been kind of understandable if people who had been led out from slavery and who grew up in the desert, Moses was obviously someone who people looked up to as a leader, but they didn't want it to go too far. So he's not mentioned in this story, which I find interesting. How many days is one obligated traditionally to eat matzah? Assuming you're going to 2 seders, yes. But yes, absolutely. There's a positive and a negative commandment involved with this. You're obligated to eat matzah at the seder, presuming you go to one of the first day and the second day. Or if it's just one day, you eat it there. The rest of the time during Passover, you're not supposed to eat anything that has leavening in it. But you don't have to eat matzah. And no one told me this when I was growing up. And let's just say it's from a physiological perspective, a lot easier to pass the holiday by not overdoing the matzah. And I'll say no more than that. Which president was the first president to hold a Passover Seder in the White House? It was Obama. It was Obama. And in fact, there's a great story about while they were on the campaign trail the year before. And political campaign trail, really just arduous work, 20-hour days, miserable. They were staying in some hotel somewhere, and there were 3 people on his speechwriting team who were Jewish. And so they grabbed a conference room and started doing a Seder the first night of Passover. And then Obama stuck his head in and said, "Do you mind if I join you?" So he joined in and then ended up winning the election. And during the rest of the time that he was in the White House, they had a Seder every year, which is kind of remarkable. Does anybody know, this is a complicated one, but it's worth covering. Passover goes by a number of names in the Bible. The 2 most relevant ones are Chag HaPesach, the festival of the lamb offering, and Chag HaMatzot, the festival of matzahs. Does anybody know why there are these 2 names given that seem to be going in different directions? And to make it even more interesting, if you read the Torah closely, it seems that Moses is using these names to refer to the festival before there's an exodus. He says to Pharaoh, "I want to go out for 3 days into the wilderness with my people to celebrate," implication being then we'll come right back. What he was talking about celebrating, these 2 festivals, were both springtime festivals, but one was for people who were herders and who had lots of groups of animals, and the other were farmers. The herders, when it was springtime, they would offer as a sacrifice one of their yearling lambs of especially good quality. The people who were farmers would spend a lot of time cleaning out the grain storage bins from the year before so that they would be spick and span before they put new grain in from the harvest. And anybody know why that is? Exactly. It was to prevent the wheat from getting moldy. And the way this works is that you all you need is a little bit of mold, and an entire huge amount of grain can be spoiled in a matter of days. So this was a big deal. They were so worried about this happening, they then would bake, once they had cleaned out the bins, they would bake loaves without leavening that were flat, like matzah, as if to say to God, God, just as this matzah has not risen a bit, please make sure that nothing concerning is happening on a biological level with this wheat we just put away. So turns out matzah was there before the Exodus. The Paschal lamb sacrifice was there before the Exodus. But like many things, many of our holidays, what had originally been an agricultural kind of concern, or like shepherding kind of concern, got attached to a historical moment. And the historical moment, of course, is the Exodus, which kind of takes over the story. And since we're not generally sheep herders or farmers, those things would have been less relevant to us to begin with. And now the two super duper questions. To date, where was the world's largest matzo ball made?
In a very big pot.
The judges are giggling. They like the answer. It probably wasn't a big pot, but do you know where that big pot was on a stove?
New York.
You'd think, right? Tucson. Tucson, Arizona. It probably baked very quickly, right? So, and then the last question, which may be my personal favorite. Every year, which city hosts the largest Passover Seder? Say it loud. Kathmandu is correct answer. And I think the reason Kathmandu has the largest Seder can be summed up in one word, which is Chabad. Chabad, the movement within Hasidic Judaism, the Lubavitchers, or also known as Chabad, have this incredible capacity to cover almost every inch of earthly territory with places for Jews to go and do things. And it turns out that some of the places they've gotten the most people to show up with have been like in Nepal, Tibet. I mean, people who are out and trekking and who have as part of their trek to stop in for Seder. So maybe I'll send out a reminder, but these are all things that you can use at next year's Seder to astound your guests. And that's it. Shall we? We've got this sun setting thing timed really well. I'm very impressed. We are going to, right now, conclude the service with the Aleinu, which is on page 586. We'll follow that with the Mourner's Kaddish. There will also be a chance for someone representing the Board of Trustees of the congregation to give a few announcements. And then the cantor will lead us in the Friday night blessings. For now, page 586, and please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
The Kaddish is on page 598. And we think especially of Natalie Winowich, who just died this past week, Tom Yanni and Victor Robb, both of whom died during this past month. The following who have members of our congregation saying Kaddish for them in this the year following the death: Dr. Hermes Hoffman, Nick Winowich, Leanne Borkovitz, Tom St. John, Morty Blutstein, Barbara Wyman, Ralph Gorin, Edith Lank, Susan Melanie Siegel, Donald Polachek, Biv Colton, Brian Spring, Ruthie Zabotsky, Jay Aronoff, Alan Rieselbach, Esther Stein, Tiny Arnold, Rosemary Bloom, Elmer Gary Martin, James Goodman, Jan Goldberg, Bobby Driggett, Evie Garfinkel, Judy Solinsky, Brian Robert Ellis, Janet Joyce Meister, Rosalie Kahn, Harry Wallace, and Ted Roth. And the following whose yahrzeit falls this week: Esther Alberts Goldberg, Jack Barco, Emily Borenstein, Rebecca Dolans, Hyman Friedman, Morris Friedman, Gerald Goldberg, Ann Hassel, Michael Hockman, Hutch Keeley Sr., Benjamin Lipschultz, Tessie Luck, David Meltzer, Edith Polland, Morton Rubin, Ansel Schmidt, Beatrice Siegel, Edward Spitz, Don Styler, Sarah Wine, Elaine Wexler Copins, Pauline Wolfson, and Roz Zaret. And if there's anybody else who is mourning the recent passing of a friend or loved one, or who is observing the yahrzeit anniversary of a loved one's death, whose name I didn't mention, I would ask you please to share those names aloud with us at this time. We continue with Kaddish.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah be'alma divra chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh b'chayechon v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imeru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'alam ol almei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei t'kudesha b'richu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imeru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imeru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imeru amen.
May the source of peace, who makes peace in the highest heavens, enable us to learn how to make peace here on earth. And may God share with those in mourning a measure of consolation and comfort. And together we say,
Amen.
Amen. Please have a seat. And who is announcing? Oh, excellent.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mike Weinshell. We're grateful for the contributions made this week to our Sinai community in memory of Ansel H. Schmidt, Rosalind Levin Zaret, Anita L. Horowitz, Elaine Wexler Copens, Tessie Luck, Ann Hassel, and Beatrice Siegel. Please join us for the following upcoming programs. Achenu is meeting this Sunday at 8:30 here at Sinai. Brit Nashim meets on Monday, April 10th, 7 p.m. here at Sinai. Pesach morning service with Yisker, Wednesday, April 12th at 10 a.m. via Zoom. Join us for adult trivia night. That is Saturday, April 15th at 7 p.m. here at Sinai. And you can sign up via the e-news by April 14th. Israel Connection presents Israel and the West Bank on Sunday, April 16th at 10 a.m. with our very own Rabbi David Cohen, sharing recent photographs and speaking about his visit there recently. Itsy Bitsy Sinai, Rhythm and Ruach meets on Sunday, April 16th at 10:15 here at Sinai. And the Sinai Culture Connection presents Tidy at Renaissance Theater Works, Sunday, April 16th at 2 p.m. Register via the e-news. Please refer to Tuesday and Friday Sinai e-news for the latest Sinai programming information, and good Shabbos.
There was a special email that went out to the the men who take part in the men's spirituality group, that Achenu group that meets on this coming Sunday, which basically said, yeah, we know we usually offer bagels and cream cheese. This week, we're not going to have bagels and cream cheese. So bring your own kosher for Passover treats. There still will be coffee, though, in the lobby. Are you ready? On page 120, you can find the blessing for the lighting of candles. If everyone would please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai,
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
And on page 123, you can find the words for the Friday evening Kiddush, or blessing over wine.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'yahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila l'mikrai kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, ve'shabbat קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת לחיים.
I was looking at this thinking, my, the challah seems very flat. But that's because, so are you ready?
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם המוציא לחם מן הארץ בתיאבון.
Okay. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Come join us outside. And introduce yourself to someone who you don't know who's here tonight, and help us continue to make this place welcoming.
Please.
I will tell Tim.